Hey there everyone, Tanner here. So, I don't normally do these ranty videos because I don't get salty often, but today something came out that actually made me legitimately salty, which is very surprising because it's in regards to Smash Bros, which is a series that I almost always just agree with what happens because I'm like, you know what, I trust Sakurai. He makes good decisions. Well, maybe that's not the case, because in a recent interview published by sourcegaming.info, which is a great website that uploads all the Smash Bros. Interviews, translate themselves, puts them up for documentation and stuff, an interview with Tetsuya Nomura, who's the character designer, and I think producer or director, something like that, on recent Final Fantasy games, and they're talking about how they were deciding to put in Cloud into Smash Bros. And it goes with saying, like, oh yeah, he had the most votes out of any Final Fantasy character. They think 1/4 of all the votes for Final Fantasy characters were Cloud, which was the majority, which makes sense. And I feel that Cloud himself is a good character. 1/3 actually. I think Cloud is a good character. I don't think that, I think he gets hated on a little too much. He's no Lightning, in Final Fantasy VII. In the movie, that's a little different, but in Final Fantasy VII itself, he's a good character. But I was reading here, and they were saying that, here's what he says. Sakurai says, Nomura, when we first talked, I asked, are you sure you're okay with Cloud? He's not a character from a new game after all. And Sakurai says, but on the other hand, if you think about who to add from Final Fantasy, it's hard to come up with a choice that's not Cloud. We could have used Terra or Bartz, protagonists in their own right, but I feel that there would be some people who wouldn't know who these characters are. And then they'll go on to also say that Strago and Fusoya were also characters that were, brought up. This might have been joking, but, I think Strago and Fusoya were jokes, but Terra and Bartz were not, because they are protagonists of their own games. So, here's the thing. Number one, I'm just gonna get this out of the way. Terra would have been a great choice, but this video is not about Terra. Terra rants are done by everyone. The reason I'm doing this video is because I've heard a lot of people say, oh, Strago, Fusoya, and Bartz would have been terrible character choices, but Terra would have been good, and I'm noticing that they're putting Bartz with the terrible character choices instead of the really good ones. And I want to just say that they are wrong, and that Bartz would have been the greatest choice for a Final Fantasy character that you could put in Smash Bros. Now, hear me out. I'm going to give a bit of a backstory. Final Fantasy V is my favorite Final Fantasy. And because all the Final Fantasies are so different, I mean, compare... all the first 5 are kind of similar, and then 6, 7, 8 were steampunky, 9 was a return to the old style, and then 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 are all doing their own thing. You can't even compare them at all as a series because they are all so different in tone, battle style, story. They're not relatable at all. But to me, Final Fantasy V is the game I grew up with as a child. Even though I played 6 the most out of any Final Fantasy game as a child, 5 stuck with me more than any other. And I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's because as a kid I wanted to be the hipster that liked this Final Fantasy no one else played. And I played it, of course, on the PS1, which was the first English release. And then later again on the Game Boy Advance. I played it through fully on that. And I loved it so much. So here's how it works. Final Fantasy V is medieval style. What it is it's really the best parts of the first 4 Final Fantasies put together into one. You got the job system of 3, you got the characters of 4, you got the setting of 1, you got, just the generalness of 1 and 2, and it's all put together, and it's great. The way the job system works, you can have any character be anything at any time, and then you can start combining stuff. You want a samurai that can use black magic? Go ahead. You want a black mage who can mix potions? Why not? You want a bard who can triple cast summon magic? You just go right on ahead, sir. Because you can just combine everything, right? And it mostly comes back to the freelancer and mime jobs. So if any of you played Dissidia, you might know where I'm going with this. With those things, you can have them be anyone and use anything, which is really cool. And in the Dissidia game, Bartz, the protagonist, or as he's known in Japan, Butts, but they changed that for obvious reason, he can, in Dissidia, use the weapons of every Final Fantasy character that's in the game, including some, I think he has some exclusive ones, I don't know, I haven't played super much Dissidia, but from what I played, he gets the ability to use attacks, like iconic attacks from every character. So, like, just imagine, instead of Cloud in Smash Bros., who really is just like, he is, and I hate to say this, he is another sword wielder. He doesn't do anything really Cloud-like aside from his specials and Limit Break, which is cool, don't get me wrong. But the way the job system works in Final Fantasy V would have allowed us to have Bartz using the weapons of every single Final Fantasy protagonist. And not even the weapons, like other things from Final Fantasy. So for instance, you know, for his just regular attack combo, because he does this in Dissidia, imagine him just attacking with the generic Final Fantasy sword, and then the second hit is the Buster sword, which has wider reach, and then the third hit is the gun blade, which causes an explosion. Like, that's the sort of thing we were talking about, you know? His up B could have been a Dragoon's jump, which would have functioned pretty similarly to how, you know, Cloud's works with the up and then down. But, you know, like how Kane's jump works in Dissidia, he could have jumped up and, like, sort of aimed around a bit and fallen, like, that would have been a cool attack, too. What else could he have? He has magic, so we would have had, I guess, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, another magic user, because magic now is kind of like, we have Palutena and Robin and stuff, but you could use water magic, or time magic, like, Holy. You could do crazy stuff with the magic for a neutral special, you know, just give him some nice projectile that would maybe be better than Blade Beam or whatever, you know, it's like, I don't know. But then I started thinking about stuff like, okay, what if you can have him use the mime skill, where, you know, say he gets hit by an attack, like a projectile attack from, let's see here, like a Ryu's Hadoken. Imagine he gets hit by that, and he has blue magic would be one thing, where he uses enemy skill, and like Kirby, he would be able to do it himself, you know? Something like that, where he would be able to have his own style of, you know, sort of copying abilities, but it would be more copying their skills rather than an ability. So, like, you wouldn't be able to copy, say, every character's neutral B, but certain projectiles you'll be able to get yourself. Like, imagine if he gets Wii Fit Trainer's side B, but instead uses Tidus's Blitzball, you know? Or imagine, any real magic he would be able to do, and copy himself. I think that would be a really cool system, where if you were to press down B, he would go into, like, his learning mode, which when he gets hit by the attack, not only would it be nullified, he would learn it for a small amount of time and be able to use it himself. And then we can go back to, like, the whole thing of using other Final Fantasy character stuff. You can get stuff like Zidane skills from, like, thief skills for his speed and stuff. Yuna's summon magic. Like, imagine being able to use, like, you know how Zelda's down B summons the Phantom? Imagine that being some Final Fantasy summon that, you know, may have multiple uses. And I was just thinking, like, man, Bartz would have been the best choice. And instead of it being like, you know, Cloud has his regular form, then his Advent Children form, we could have got, like, a mono Bartz and then in-game Bartz, which are both different. Or even better, in-game Bartz is the default, because you want to make him look like the in the game, not the artwork. And then Dancer Bartz, which is the best. He's a dancer. Bartz has so much personality. Like, if you played Final Fantasy V the way you're supposed to, which is the Game Boy Advance version, you'll know he's a funny character. He just has fun with stuff. And I think it would have been so cool, but we got Cloud, who, like, his personality is so not there. They kept his voice acting in Japanese because there's nothing really to translate, you know? So, I don't know. I just wanted to rant about this, that like, there's so much you could have done to represent Final Fantasy as a franchise with Bartz. Because of the fact that he can learn skills, he can do any Final Fantasy thing. Really. Aside from, like, weird Final Fantasy 13 exclusive stuff, or, I don't know, dancing like Yuna in 10-2, like, he could do, well, no, he can do dancing like Yuna. What am I talking about? He has a dancer class. But, like, he would have been able to represent the entire Final Fantasy franchise. And not only that, I mean, like, for a final attack, you could have done, like, some summon or a random encounter. I don't know, just his final smash could have been Bahamut. Like, the one that appears in the, Midgar stage. But you can control it, that would have been cool. And, like, for a stage, Battle on the Big Bridge. Gilgamesh shows up. Gilgamesh uses stuff from all the Final Fantasies too, because he's the only Final Fantasy character that is the same Final Fantasy character across all the games. Like, 5 has such an awesome spot in the Final Fantasy mythos where it is canon to all Final Fantasies. No other ones really connect. Like, I think it's 2 and 4 might be connected. Like, there's some hints at that, but aside from that, and then 10 is the way millennia off prequel to 7. But, like, you could have 5 represent the entire Final Fantasy nexus, you know? And you would still have the, you know, stuff from 7, kind of. You'd have the Buster Sword, you could do some of Cloud's attacks, but there's just so much more you could have done with him. And it does come down to the fact that Bartz is not recognizable. But to which I argue Corrin, who I didn't even know about until they talked about him in the Smash thing. And I'm a giant Nintendo fan. I know almost everything about Nintendo, and it sucks, but it's true. So it's like, I don't know. I'm just of all the characters that could have been potentially in Smash, like, you know how much I was going for, like, Banjo-Kazooie or Shovel Knight? Like, when they announced Bayonetta or, you know, and Corrin in them, I was like, whatever. That's so cool. And I still like Corrin as a character, don't get me wrong. Corrin looks to be fun. But here's the thing. Like, just the fact that this interview was published and they talked about the fact that Bartz was considered, I got really salty. So, I don't know. I guess I just needed to rant about this and say why Bartz would have been awesome, because so many people are like, nah, I'm happy Bartz didn't get in, and I'm like, no, you don't see the potential. You don't see why. That's about it. I'm about done. I'm gonna drink some coffee, do some homework. I just wanted to get this over with and talk about why and also, don't worry, a Final Fantasy V Let's Play is in the works. I bought that game like 4 times to get a working copy, and I finally have one for GBA now, so it'll happen. It's my favorite. You'll see why. But, yeah. I'm just going back to work. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy with Smash. But, man, we could have had Bartz. See you all next time, guys. Ciao.